Welcome back. It's exactly 9:37. This is News and Views right here on Salam Media. And as COP26 is wrapping up in Glasgow in Scotland, where obviously world leaders have made huge promises and decisions to step away from fossil fuels because climate science has shown that we can't carry on burning our existing reserves and burning the planet as well, let alone drill for more oil. Unfortunately, offshore oil and gas operators are pushing ever harder to get their hands on supplies of precious gas and oil. It is absolutely outrageous. And in the center of all of this, right here in South Africa, Shell, the oil company Shell, has lots to answer for. And we do hope that all responsible citizens are going to make a huge noise and protest against this atrocity. Online, we do have an amazing lady, and that is you, Janet Solomon, co-founder of Oceans Not Oil. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the program, and you certainly must be outraged at this situation.
Assalamu alaikum, Julie, and thank you for having me. Am I outraged?
Wa alaikum salam, wa alaikum salam. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yes, I am outraged. I've been outraged for a long time looking at government's gas master plan. But the Shell application has been authorized already without public participation. And that's the outrage with this application that's taking place. The permit is for an area of ocean between Morgan's Bay and Port St. John's, and they'll be conducting a seismic survey there. That seismic survey means that they're dragging air guns through the ocean, and they will be blasting every 10 seconds for about 6 months, 5 to 6 months. And as you know, this is an area of the ocean that is very challenging. It's full of sea wrecks, but it's also an area that is full of extraordinary diversity. You know, BBC teams come here every year to film this area of our coastline because it is so rich. And there's an outcry. I mean, we've already got 60 comments on our website as of yesterday. People are outraged. We've started a petition. There's over 8,000 comments on that. And we're looking for further support.
Okay, so, and all of this during whale season, we know the amount of local and international tourists we get in that part of the country during whale season. And apart from just the tourists, just the damage to that area, the marine life, the whales, I mean, with all of that blasting going on, tell us what the repercussions could look like.
Okay, so these are the proven impacts of air guns. Air guns produce not only sound, but they also produce pressure waves. And they're so powerful, for instance, that they can penetrate up to 5 kilometers of sea and then through to about 40 kilometers of seabed. They produce lethal or sublethal injury in a variety of sea animals. They can produce hearing loss, which can be temporary and permanent. They obviously mask communications, and as we know, most sea animals don't work visually. They work with their auditory systems to find out where their school is or the rest of their pod is. They work with sound to find out where their prey is, where they feed, they reproduce. Everything revolves around sound. Obviously, this produces physiological stress, organ rupture, behavior response. They'll obviously avoid critical habitat areas. It can disrupt schooling and migration. It can disrupt homing and orientation. Squid, for instance, they don't know where they are in sea depth. It decreases feeding efficiency. You can get decompression sickness in not only mammals, but also fish, where they literally get the bends and they can die. And they have been known to produce mass strandings. Obviously, the full extent of the impact is not understood until the harm occurs.
What I find even more outrageous, and I'm going to read you a paragraph, which says, under the Convention on the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea, a seismic survey vessel that is engaged, and this is what we're talking about, which is engaged in surveying, is defined as a vessel restricted in its ability to maneuver, which requires that power-driven and sailing vessels give way to a vessel restricted in her ability to maneuver. So vessels engaged in fishing,
yes,
are kindly requested to, so far as possible, keep out of the way of the seismic operation. And furthermore, under the Marine Traffic Act of 1981, a seismic survey vessel and its seismic array is protected by a 500-meter safety exclusion zone. Isn't that outrageous?
Well, what you must understand is that the seismic survey tows these air guns, and it's a massive array. We're talking soccer fields and soccer fields of an array of air guns behind it. So it's a vast mechanism, and this is why you don't want fishing vessels entangled in that or getting in the way of that. Now, it's all very well to say that vessels are excluded up to 500 meters. The humans are excluded from that space up to 20 kilometers, but they are only looking for animals that are in the visual parameter of the ship. But what is not conveyed in that is that sound can travel up to tens of thousands of kilometers. So the effect for a vessel is small, but by comparison, the effect of the acoustic trauma is massive.
Mm-hmm. And I made that comment in light of the fact that there are fishing vessels, there are people that are totally dependent on fishing as their livelihood. So they also get restricted where there's oil and gas. These companies then wreak havoc in the environment, and all of this happening, as I've indicated, with COP26 wrapping up, where our president has accepted, the offer from 5 superpowers, US, UK, Germany, France, and the United Nations, on a loan to move towards cleaner fuel. So on the one hand, we're going to cleaner fuel. On the other hand, we're wreaking havoc in our waters.
Absolutely, Julie. I think South Africa must decide who's in charge. Is it Mantashe with his push for oil and gas? Remembering, of course, if they find reserves, they're only going to be produced in years to come. It's not an immediate thing. So what is the world going to look like by the time this oil and gas comes out the seabed? So, that's something of concern. In the meantime, we've got this forked tongue situation where we're also saying, oh, well, the global north must pay for our just transition. And that just transition has hardly been conceptualized yet.
So how do we move forward on this issue, Janet? And I'm also thinking, is your organization, do we have strong enough voices to halt this event?
Well, the voices are broad and wide. I've just come back from a 5,000 kilometer tour of the coastline, and I've spoken to people from chokka fisher folk, those are squid fisher folk, and this kind of operation impacts them hugely. They can lose their catch can be impacted massively by these kind of operations. So from those people through to your subsistence fisher folk, through to people who just the tourists. We love our coastline, and the voices are there. The problem is government going to listen? We've set up a petition to land on our Minister of the Environment, Barbara Creasy's desk, before this goes to sea, and we're hoping that she's going to listen. As it is, we've already got in the High Court at the moment, there is FEDC, South Durban environmental organization, which has taken the minister and ENI, an oil corporation, and Sasol to court to try and stop production of exploratory drilling off our coastline on KZN. So there's huge backlash at the moment, and I think it's pertinent that Shell are sneaking in at this stage without public participation to go out to sea. And the reason for that you can find on our website, but essentially the legislation for environmental impact assessments fell out of law when Operation Pakisa came into being, with the rationalization of environmental law between the Mineral Department and the Environmental Department. EIA for seismic surveys simply slipped out of law. The environmental lobby has put them back into law, but this application was authorized during that window period when it was lawful to conduct a seismic survey without an environmental impact assessment. So this is hugely problematic. And I think the South African citizens who object must do so. They can approach SLR Consulting. I've got on our website, on our blog website, we've got their email address. It actually works as EcoStandIus, so EcoStandIus at slrconsulting.com. They can register as interested and affected parties, and they can have their say. They can comment and they can object.
Okay. All right. So that's where we're going to have to leave it. Much support is what we pray that this does not come to pass. You keep up the good work, because government may be getting lots of money to allow Shell to do these surveys, the drilling, etc. But 50, 100 years later, we are going to be paying for the damage done to our immediate environment. But thank you indeed for your keen interest in this and fighting the good fight. Go well.
Thanks
and
for
have
the
a great
opportunity.
day.
Thanks, Julie.
9:51 exactly, news and views right here on Salam Media.
Looking to get your kick? Kiki's